Hey guys, in the last video, we looked at 6 signs of low self-esteem. Signs that you don't value yourself. Signs that you don't think positive about yourself. You can check that video here. In this video, we will talk about how to raise your self-esteem, how to feel more confident in your own skin, how to lift your self-confidence. Do watch the video till the very end because we are going to share a scientifically tested method and I genuinely feel that it will help you because it did help me a lot. So let's get started. The first step is to identify the troubling situations. Are there any specific situations or conditions in your life when you feel low in confidence, when you don't feel very good about yourself? Identify those situations. These situations could be maybe appearing for an interview, or maybe when you're about to give a presentation at work, or when there is a challenging situation in your personal or professional life. So identify these troubling situations. The second step is to become aware of your thoughts and beliefs in those troubling situations. What do you think during those situations? What are your thoughts? Are they positive? Are they negative? Or are they neutral? Are they based on fact and logic, or they're just based on false beliefs? The second thing to consider is what is your interpretation of that situation. Do you have a tendency to positively interpret most of the situations, or do you have a tendency to negatively interpret that situation? For example, when you're about to give a presentation at work, you might have a negative interpretation about it. For example, you might think that I'm not confident enough, maybe I'm not prepared enough, or I might screw up the presentation, and then the audience, my co-workers will judge me and they'll think that I'm not good enough. Or you could have a positive interpretation, thinking that the purpose of the presentation is just to educate and inform the audience about what you have worked on. The third step, and the most critical one, is to identify the negative thought patterns. Each of us is used to a certain pattern of thought, and we are used to this pattern of thinking over a period of time. And mostly, this pattern of thinking could be negative, and this could happen over and over for different situations in your life. Let me take examples of a couple of negative thinking patterns to make things more clear. First pattern of negative thinking: all or nothing. You have a tendency to think about people or situations as being all good or all bad. For example, if I don't succeed in this task, I'm a total failure. Now, how can a single task decide whether you're a complete failure? But you might have a tendency of thinking all or nothing. Second pattern of negative thinking: mental filtering. You might have a tendency to just focus on negatives of a person or a situation, and then you dwell on those negative thoughts, which ultimately distorts your perspective or your view towards that situation or towards that person. For example, there are many people in our life who initially we thought as being negative, who we didn't like, but over a period of time, we realized that they're actually very kind, they're actually very good at heart. And this happened probably because initially you focused on all the negative things which clouded your judgment of that person or situation. Third negative thinking pattern: converting your positives into negatives. You might have a tendency to reject your achievements or the positive experiences in your life. You tend to ignore all the positive things that happened in your life, and then you just focus on the negative things, not so good things about yourself, and start feeling bad about yourself. So this is not a positive thing to do. We have to focus on the good things about ourselves also, and then balance it out by focusing on the not so good things so that we can work on them. For example, you may think that I did well in a test just because it was easy. So you didn't focus on the part that you did well in the test. You ignored it and you focused on the part that the test was easy and hence I had to do well. Fourth pattern of negative thinking, and this is my personal favorite: jumping to negative conclusions. Do you have a tendency to reach to negative conclusions with little or no evidence to support it? For example, my friend is not responding to my email. That means I might have done something wrong to make her angry. Now, there could be hundreds of other reasons why your friend is not responding, but you still had to jump to that negative conclusion that you might have done something wrong. Fifth pattern of negative thinking: mistaking your feelings for facts. Do you have a tendency to confuse your feelings for facts? For example, there are certain days which don't go in our favor. There's a phase in life in which you're not doing very well. And it might happen that in that phase of your life, you might think that you're feeling like a failure. But the problem is, this feeling of your failure gets connected to the fact that you are a complete failure, which is wrong. Let's talk about the last step, step 4. In this step, you have to adjust your thoughts and beliefs. You have to replace those negative thinking patterns with constructive and positive thoughts. Let's look at a couple of strategies on how you can do this. First tip, use hopeful statements. For once in your life, treat yourself with kindness and encouragement. Now, when we talk to other people, when we advise people, or when we advise our best friends, we give them so much encouragement, we give them so much support, right? For example, if your friend is going for an interview, what are the things that you say to him? You support him, you encourage him, right? You tell him that you'll crack the interview, you will rock the interview. But the irony is, we don't encourage and we don't tell these things to ourselves, which is wrong, right? So for once in your life, treat yourself with kindness, encourage yourself. So if you're about to go for a presentation at work, don't say that I'll screw up the presentation. You can say, I know it's tough, but I will handle it. Let me share my personal experience, which is very close to my heart. I also was in a habit of thinking very negative about myself. I used to have a lot of negative self-talk. But over a period of time, I shifted those thoughts into more positive thoughts. And now when I'm about to approach a difficult situation, maybe an interview, these are the exact things I do. First, I lift my hands because this gives me a feeling of victory and positivity. Second, I tell myself that I'm a freaking legend. I was born to do this. And believe me, it has worked a lot for me. When I'm about to go to these situations, I feel more confident about myself, and majority of the times I'm able to handle those situations with grace. Second tip, learn to forgive yourself. Everyone makes mistakes. Who doesn't make mistakes, right? And it's through mistakes that we actually learn. But just because you make a mistake doesn't mean you curse yourself, you feel bad about yourself. Because a mistake is not a permanent reflection of you as an individual. A mistake is just an isolated moment in time, which doesn't decide if you're a failure or how your future will be. It is just a mistake. You do a mistake, you learn from it, and then you move on. Third tip is to avoid the usage of strong words in your thoughts. Avoid the usage of words like should and must, because these put unreasonable demands on you or others. For example, you might have a tendency to say, I should finish this by tonight, or I must finish reading the book by the end of this week. But the problem is, if that doesn't happen, you feel angry on yourself. You don't feel good about yourself. So if you remove these strong words for most of the situations, it helps to set realistic expectations. Tip 4, focus on the positive. Now this point has been beaten to death by so many people. Every other person tells you to focus on the positive things about you. But the irony is we still don't do it. Each one of us is unique, each one of us is special, and each one of us has something good about ourselves. You might be a good dancer, you might be a good sportsman, you might be a good artist, a musician, and so on. Or you might just be a good person from heart. So it's time to focus on these good things about yourself, because when you feel good about yourself, you tend to have a positive outlook towards life. Tip 5. Consider what you have learned in your journey. Consider what you have learned in the past. Now, each one of us has bad experiences. Each one of us has negative experiences. I'm not saying that you imagine that it was actually positive. It's okay that it was negative. Accept it as a negative situation or a negative experience. But analyze what you could have done differently or what you will do differently in the future, so that it becomes better next time. For example, you gave a presentation at work, but you felt that people did not really like it. It did not go well with them. So you analyze that situation, and maybe you realize that you missed explaining the purpose of the presentation, or you missed giving context to the audience, and that is why they felt left out throughout the presentation. And now you will try to implement these things next time in your presentation, so that you convert that negative experience and situation into a positive one. We have now come to the end of the video. If you found this video helpful, please like and share this video. And don't forget to press the bell icon to be notified about new uploads. Thank you.